Hi to everyone, Dave. Today I'm going to make a dual bike check. We've got two beautiful bikes here and I want to show you what's the difference, which are the components, so let's go on. On my right, Banshee Titan, my enduro vehicle, versus the other Banshee which I've got here, which is the Banshee Prime, the more universal all-mountain trail light enduro X-enduro vehicle. What's the difference between these two beasts? Because these looks quite the same, but they are not. A huge difference when you ride. The frames on the Banshee are quite similar. Front triangle is actually the same on both. There is a slight difference between the head angle on the Prime, which is a more trail conservative bike, versus the more enduro one, which is a Titan. The head angle on this one was originally something like 65-ish, 65.5, while on the Titan is 1 degree more slacker. What I've been doing on this one to equalize the two bikes is to install dual angle sets, a custom angle set from Cane Creek. And so now I do have a 63.5 head angle on my trail bike. And I do have the same on the Banshee Titan, because this one has been dropped, like chopperized, by using a 27.5 wheel. So from 64.5, now I ended up at 63.5. So these two bikes, they actually share the same head angle. I believe no matter what you ride, you should always have the same head angle in all your vehicles, and my spot head angle is about 63, so I'm not really far from my idea of perfection on these two bikes. So front triangles, these are the same, they just weld the head box in a different position to obtain the different head angle at the catalog. Talking about the rear ends of the bikes, the rear triangle, it's a single piece, the same in width, length structure on both bikes. What changes between the two and what gives the bikes a different travel, because I'm talking about a 205 trunnion shock here with nearly 160 millimeters rear travel on this one, while on this one we got 114 only. What makes the difference is the shock length, 205 versus 185, and the rocker and the lower joint. So this is slightly difference between the two black parts here and the two black parts here, and these different components will actually make the bikes with less or more travel. Frame wise, the material of the frame, it's the 7000 alloy, which is one of the highest grade in the mountain bike industry. It's really well made, really stiff, and I don't feel, well, because there isn't any stiffness differences between the Prime and the Titan, because they are actually sharing the same front triangle, as I said, and the same rear triangle. The frames are raw because I like the color. These are clear coat painted a little bit to protect the oxidation. I have been installing the BecomeUnique from Portugal red graphics on the Titan, the latest bike I made, while on the other one I've got this beautiful neon yellow, which I love the most. So these were the frames. One side note about frames, these comes from factory with internal routing for all the cables. I've been riding the internal cables, goes inside here for about 1.5 years, but recently on these two vehicles I actually pulled out all the cables, put everything in externally, because I really believe when someone has to change parts every month, every week, or quite often, then you need external routing. So now my bikes, even if they are compatible with the internal routing, they are fully external. Frames. What's the main part attached to the frames? Suspension. And here it comes the beautiful stuff on these two bikes. As you can see, let's start from the front. I've got two superb forks from Intent. These forks may look the same, but these are quite different. On my left side, on the more X-enduro easy bike, I've got the Intent Hero, which is a fork which peaks at 1.9 kilograms on the scale, while on this side, on the more enduro bike, I've got the classical masterpiece, which is my favorite, the Enduro Intent Edge fork. Travel-wise, not really far away off each other. I've got 172 here, I've got 157 on the other side. The maximum for the Hero is 160, while the maximum for the Edge is 180. But there's a big difference in the structure, which is the crown. On the Enduro model, which is the Edge, the crown, it's so massive, it's really huge. And the legs, there's a little bit more beef in here, so they are more tapered. While on the other bike, the more light vehicle, the crown is a little bit more small, and the taper of the legs is also a little bit more shaved, so more slim. The forks are performing so well, I'm so happy, and there is no way I will go back to traditional forks after having tried upside down stuff. So these are the forks. Couple of more tech things. I run 15mm axle because I like to change wheels a lot, and all my wheels are 15. And also I don't believe there is a lot of benefits running a 20, especially in a single crown fork. So that's why I'm running the 15. All the forks are equipped with triple chamber system, so they are exactly the same. They have the rifle leg guard kits, so exactly the same. And I do have the RRT cartridge from Manitou, modified by myself. So it's a fully sealed cartridge. So I believe these forks are the best forks you can get on planet Earth, single crown version. While you know already what I do love as a dual crown, which is not here today, but it's on my downhill bike, the Dorado. Let's go on with the rear shock. These two shocks are quite the same. 185 trunnion here, 205 on the other side, so we got more travel there, the 65 stroke versus the 55 on this one. This one is quite a particular shock. It's not a Kitsuma, this one is a double barrel, twin tube from 2014 with the head of a Kitsuma, because I'd really like to climb, and so I needed the 3-position switch with a fully lock on top to do a lot of climbs. Otherwise, I would have installed the inline trunnion, which is the most beautiful small shock you can get in the market. But again, I want the full lock, so this monster is the shock that I love the most. While on the other bike, a bike designed to shuttle days, bike parks, chairlift days, a more like downhill oriented bike, I have the masterpiece double barrel original one with a double barrel head. CS edition, because I can still do some little climbs on the bike. The shocks were completely tuned on inside, so those are RRT tuned, and I really believe on these two bikes you can see the best suspension you can get on this planet. That's it. Suspension. We got wheels attached to the suspensions, and the wheels on these two bikes are another piece of a masterpiece because especially on this one, I've got this new brand from Germany. It's called PI Rope. They make crazy spokes made by textile. It's like Vectran stuff. It's like Kevlar, or yeah, it's actually it's not steel. It's a fabric, and these are so light but so strong. And the wheel set on this particular bike, the Banshee Prime, it's 1,050 grams for 2 wheels. I'm running the carbon rims. I'm running 25mm with internal, and the tension is quite high, 120, 100, 120. So you have a lot of rotation, acceleration when you put your watts through the chain to the hub. So these are my favorite wheels, 29, because this bike, it's so low on the BB that I can't go on a 27.5 rear. Something which I have been doing on the Enduro bike, 27.5 rear, 29 front, same wheels, just a little difference in the rim. This one is not carbon, it's alloy from Neumann, Germany. Still PI rope spokes, custom color, custom hub, 25mm internal. So I've got exactly the same setup on both. A couple of words about 25 millimeters inner width. I'm not alone on planet thinking that 25 is more than enough. The tires are too squared, and on a 30, on a typical height width rim. So running the 25, even with a fat tire with this one, which is a 2.5 DHF from Maxxis, it's even too squared. So I really believe 25 is the way to go, and all my bikes, including the downhill one at home and the city bike too, I run 25 millimeters inner width. These wheels are crazy, so light, so stiff, so precise, and the unsprung mass really give to the suspension a less work to do when you ride. This wheel set for the Enduro, it's only 1.2 kilograms heavy. It's a massive low weight, while the other one, as said, is nearly above 1 kilogram, 1 kilogram 50 grams to be precise. Something special, it's in here in the hubs too. I've got what I call the APK, anti-pedal kickback hub. It's a hub with a really low POE number, so you have a lot of free play at the crank before it engages, and this one simulates like if you install a system like the O-chain, for instance. I really believe there is no point of buying O-chains and other components like that if your hub has a low POE number, because you get, I'm getting 24 degrees of free play here. So with 24 degrees of free play, I have zero pedal kickback when I ride slow, because as we know, pedal kickback only occurs when we ride slow. But I'm so happy, and the bike is still light. I don't have any extra weight on it like the O-chain. I don't have any extra not useful stuff. Just use the correct hub. Even on the cross-country version, I have the same. 24 degrees of free play. This is really crazy. 24, it's a massive number of free play. And the good thing is, when I'm climbing and the hub it's engaged, there is no power loss. Tire-wise, quite easy. My favorite tire ever, the rear Kenda booster. I really love this tire. It's really light, really grippy. It's like the Maxxis Minion SS, but it's made by Kenda. It's only like 600 grams, a lot of grip, never had a trouble. It's my everyday go tire. I inflated usually at 2 bars, 1.92 bars. It's 2.2 wide. On the front, we got the Regulate from Kenda. Again, 1.8, 1.9 bars, 2.2 wide. Really good, really grippy, and it rolls quite good. On the Enduro, a more classic setup. DHF front 2.5, super grip, max grip, and DHR Max Terra rear 2.3. Yeah, quite good. The only thing I do feel when I ride this bike is the bike is actually slower than the other one, unless you point really steep stuff. If it's steep, the rolling resistance given by the knobs and the tires and the more heavy wheels is not actually ruining your day. But if it's not steep and you are on a flat, let's say Basenato Finello Ligure, which all of you knows, it's quite steep gradient, it's quite moderate gradient. This bike doesn't go forward, while the other one has less grip for sure in the corners, not that much, maybe 10%, 5% less, but in the overall day, you are faster because you have less resistance by the knobs, less rolling resistance overall, lighter wheels. So this one it's my favorite bike anyway, even if this one is better. This one is the best bike, but this one is the daily preferred bike. Wheels, what we got? Attached to the wheels, we got discs. I run the Magura Storms on all the bikes. 180, because for my lower weight this is enough, and the second reason because these brakes, well, these discs are enough, is because I'm using the best brake of the planet, which is the Hope Tech 4 V4. I've been running on this bike the XCR, the cross-country version of it, 1.5 years ago. I was happy, but after some long runs, I really understood that the power wasn't there, and so I just switched to the V4, the top-of-the-line Hope brake. Since that day, I can't really change the brakes any longer. These things are so powerful. And so I'm sharing the same brakes on all my vehicles, Hope Tech 4 V4, original pads, the green ones. These are the best. I don't like braided hose because there is no point up to me. I mean, I don't crash so often, so there is no extra point of having that extra protection of the hose. These are lighter, these are sliding better in the fork, and so this is my option. Plastic hoses, V4, there's nothing to say. Since I'm talking about the cockpit up here, let's talk about handlebars. I've got the SQ Lab, which is about 16 degrees back, but it's rotated a little bit forward, and so I'm actually getting 12 back and 5 or 6 degrees up. This is my setup since a lot of years. I'm so happy. There is not a big difference between the two bikes. This one is a more moderate rise, while on the other bike it's a high rise, just because on this bike I had not installed any extra stack given by the angle set. So I need to come up with the handlebar, while here I'm already quite up with the stack, and so I'm using a more flattish handlebar, but they do share the same curvature, and I'm so happy with this geometry of the handlebar. I think it's the best you can get. This one has been extended, I would say, in width a little bit. It's 815 millimeters in width with some extenders that like plugs that I made on the lathe. So this one is a sort of a custom handlebar, but again, 12 back and 5 or 6 degrees up. So this is my choice, SQ Lab. Something really magic it's on these two bikes, which is the handlebar clamp. I'm running the Rulezman newer V3 heavy duty 15 millimeters forward clamp, 60 in width, super strong, super stiff. Really, really good. Now you can even get this one because I'm selling it. Production going on right now. Only 99 units will be produced. Get one before it's sold out. On the Enduro, on the more light bike, I've got the prototype. The father of that one. This one is the V2, still 15 millimeters forward, still 60 millimeter in width clamp area. Only 100 grams, but this one is not certified yet, so I'm keeping as a prototype. I'm testing it. I'm riding it since 1 year, 0 issues, but it's not for sale at the moment. But anyway, these two clamps, what you are used to heard like stems, that's the name you know, which I do call handlebar clamps. These two handlebar clamps are the most beautiful thing I've ever seen so far on a bike. And I believe these two bikes are the first bikes using this sort of clamp, so you better get some. Front end, what I've got grips. It's quite my daily choice. It's a Progrip 727 dual compound grip. It's a grip made by 100% rubber. Not like the lock-on grips where you have a really thin layer of plastic which is holding your grip to the handlebar. That plastic is actually reducing the thickness of the grip, and so the bumps absorption of the lock-on grips couldn't be as good as the full rubber grips. These are quite good. The texture is really good. There's a little flange-like moto, so I know where I put my thumb. And these are quite cheap. The rubber is made by two density rubbers. The first one is more thick more dense on the inside, and on the outside it's a little bit more soft. These are cheap, looks good, works good. I would never change. Progrip 727, it's my to-go grip since a lot of years. I do use AVS handguards. A lot of people said we don't need handguards. Well, I do think we do need handguards. And check out my, well, this one I've been installing the handguard, the yellowish handguards, neon yellow, like 2 months ago, and they are already scratched on everywhere because of a couple of reasons. First reason, I fold the bike sometime, like all of you. And second reason, it's full of everything, you know, in the woods. So it's the wood is so dense that you'll always hit something when you ride here in Finale Ligure and the place where I live. There's another good point about handguards, which is they will touch the trees before your hands will do. So you know where you are with your width of the handlebar when you ride, and also well, to me, these are yellow, so I saw where my handlebar is when I ride, even if I look in the front. I'm really happy with the handguards. And I've been crashing a couple of times recently with this bike, and these also protected well the brake levers, so no damage to the brakes. Handguards, €50. Brakes, €500, so it's better to save the brakes, maybe destroying a handguard, but these are quite flexible, so I don't really see the point of breaking these. I use the model with the alloy brackets, so the brackets is quite stiff while the plastic is not. So as you can see, the flex comes from the plastic and not from the bracket. These are really well designed. I'm so happy. I believe all of you should ride these unless you ride in the desert, but I don't think you ride the desert. So these are my AVS handguards. Nice neon yellow color, matching the BecomeUnique graphics on my Prime bike, while on the Titan I've got the Ferrari red matching saddle, and BecomeUnique red graphics here too. So this was a handlebar. One end note about the lever position, I ride at 15 degrees minus from the zero inclination, so it's quite good. I can't really understand people riding at 45 degrees or something like that. Maybe your bike is too small, you are too cramped on the handlebar. That's why you ended up with elbows up too much. Your elbows should be sort of parallel when you ride, when you drop your bum. So this is my cockpit. What I have to say more, drivetrain. I do have two different drivetrains on the bike. On this model in particular, I do have the super newer Gabaruk front chainring 30 teeth, while on the rear I've got the Gabaruk cassette 11 speed 10 to 50 XTR Mac 11 speed with the Gabaruk cage. This setup is the most beautiful and most technique I ever had in my life. I'm so happy. Of course, titanium E-wings. There's nothing to say about the E-wings. The best cranks on planet are these, period. I do run no bash guards because I know actually where I'm going when I ride. Never had an issue, and I do run the Mallet Crank Brothers downhill, full downhill pedal. These are the best to me. On the other bike, we got some different things, because this one is my, what I call the old bike. I've been riding this for 2 years now. And I've got the Gabaruk in the front, which is a 26, good for climbs. On the rear, I don't have the Gabaruk yet, because I don't want to throw in the bin a working cassette. I've got the Gabaruk at home, and so new one for this bike. But as soon as I worn out this one, I will put the Gabaruk. At the moment, I'm running the E13 9-46 11 speed XTR Mac classic cage, and as said, I've got a new cage Gabaruk at home, a new cassette at home ready for replacement when it's gonna be worn out, but it's holding up quite well. So these are the two drivetrains. Here again, E-wings, yeah, E-wings and Crank Brothers, Enduro mallets. with the titanium spindle, really light stuff. That's why this bike comes out at 12.6, 12.5, 12.6 kilograms out of the scale, while the other one is 15, yeah, 15 and something. I've been using the KMC chain for years. This one is still a KMC 11 on the new bike. So this year I've been buying some SRAM X01, XX1. Yeah, the top of the range SRAM, it's on the other bike. So as soon as I need to replace this one, I will also install the SRAM train on this one. That's it. I do have STFU on both bikes. I use just a single one in the middle because the shape of the rear swing arm on the Banshee doesn't allow to get two STFU, one here and one here at the first third and the second third. So I'm just using a single one in the center. On that one, this STFU has been on for 1.5 years, 0 issues, no cuts, no damage. The only important thing when you install the STFU is to install it properly, because otherwise in 2 days it will fell off. The saddle and the dropper, I left it at the end because of it's something magical. I was thinking about my droppers. This is the Bike Yoke 2.0 Revive, really good stuff. And sometimes I really forget I have it. And why I forget that I have the Bike Yoke? Because it's perfect, you know. When something is perfect, you actually forget to own that perfection, to own that piece. Sometimes you have to adjust the fork, air pressure, you have to regulate the brakes, you have to adjust the cassette. So there's a lot of maintenance to do on a bike component, but this Bike Yoke, it's crazy. I've been installing this 1.5, nearly 2 years now on this bike. And in 2 years, what I've been doing as a maintenance, it's nothing, 0. So I forgot that the Bike Yoke was on my bike because it just works. So I really believe it's one of the best, if not the best, dropper posts you can get on planet. Bolt on, smooth as fuck. It's really cool. You can really dose the speed. And I'm so happy. So I'm sharing the same Bike Yoke Revive 2.0 on both bikes with the same lever here, the Bike Yoke long one. And I'm using a 125mm travel yoke, while people usually want 150 or 175, 200. I'm not a fan of the long travel droppers, and there are a couple of reasons behind this. The first reason is when the saddle is all down on this bike and on the other bike too, my saddle is just about at the correct position where the saddle is on my downhill bike, which is just about 50% of the head tube here. So if the saddle would be too low, well, more low, it would be too low compared to my downhill bike, and then I will lose the reference here. So the 125 is just perfect to place the saddle where it should be, in my opinion. And the second reason behind this choice is that every time I have to squat down to drop the saddle down when I ride, I'm actually giving a free squat to my day. And if I do this movement 100,000 times, whatever, in a 3-4 hours day out on the bike, I'm getting extra tired from the squatting for nothing. And the more you squat, the more you get tired. So 125, I do 125mm of squat. If it was 200, I would have to do 200mm of squat. But yeah, I mean, I'm prepared to suffer, so it wouldn't be a problem. But the main reason is to place the saddle in the right position. And the right position to me, it's this. I still have 2 centimeters left here, so I could run the 150-ish, something like this, but I don't want it. I want the 125. Saddle-wise, I guess it's the cheapest component of my bikes. I run it's mine, give it to me. I run the AliExpress, 45 bucks, carbon saddle with no foam. Why? There are a few reasons behind this. The first reason, and the most important one, is that my ass, it's quite happy with this shape of the saddle. It's quite happy. I have been testing 250 pounds, whatever, euros or bucks, expensive saddles, but my ass never found a saddle which is so comfortable as this one. It's just a match. And then I'm also lucky because of a couple of reasons, tech reasons. First, it's carbon, it's really light, 110 grams. So it's part of the why my bikes are so light. And second, and last note, it's cheap. You can get it for 50 euros, something like that. So this is my to-go saddle, even on a road bike. I use the same. I'm quite happy. What else to say? One more thing. One more thing that people always forget, but it's there. I'm talking about sealant. This is what I use. I'm on Stance Not Tube since probably more than 10 years. It's inside in my tires. You don't see it. I don't see it. But I never have troubles and I never go back home with the flat tires. So this is what I use the most. Well, only actually. I've got stance valves, nice color alloy, stunt tapes, and that's it. I think I've been explaining to you which are the components of my two bikes, which are the difference of the frame and the components, and which one is the best, because all of you at the end just want to know what's the best in terms of performance and riding. Well, the best bike is the red one because it has better fork, more travel, better tires, more grip, wider handlebar, stiffer stem, wider pedals, wider range cassette, but, oh yeah, better shock. Yeah, everything is better on this bike. But what I do prefer to ride every day, the other one. So sometimes it's really, really strange how the best things are not what people believe are the best. This one is the best, but I prefer a lighter setup. Just because maybe the way I do ride, maybe because of my style, but I'm actually not having all that fun when I ride a 15 kilograms bike compared to 12.5 kilograms bike. So this one is the best, but my best is the Banshee Prime. Less travel, more fast, more agile. And of course, if I have to hit the bike park, I probably take the Legend, which is at home. Downhill bike, dual crown fork, 200 front and rear travel. So what's the sense of an enduro bike like this? Because this one is probably like 10 grand of bike. It's really high quality stuff. The sense is, if you only own one bike and your brain is like descent oriented, then this one is the bike for you. There's nothing better. You can do a lot of stuff. You can still climb without getting too tired. I've been trying the lightness of a bike and I'm not so downhill oriented any longer, so this one is my choice. But these are the two bikes, really good. I hope you enjoy this long dual bike check, and see you next. Ciao.